Yeah, sure. Michael Nwoko has another big game tonight. Is really putting up a lot of production in the short minutes that he sees on the floor. Sometimes is it almost getting harder sometimes to keep him off, on the floor. You talked about how it really boils down sometimes to his conditioning, but when he keeps producing like this, how much harder is it to keep him off the bench?
Yeah, from the outside world, I would look at that and basically say the same thing, man. If you do points and rebounds and productivity per 40, it's probably really, really good. I don't look at that stat, but I'm sure it's really, really good because, like you mentioned, he's had some really good games and productive games. And when you look at his bench, you're like, wow. But again, we coach him every day in practice, and he knows this. And his productivity drops off when he gets tired. And unfortunately, right now, he gets tired a little bit earlier than we all want him to be. And so we track it every single day, and he knows what he needs to do. And if he can get himself where that drop off isn't as big, and it all boils down to either being tougher mentally or being in better shape physically, cardio wise. You got to remember now, he averaged 8 minutes a game, last year. So playing bigger minutes would be something different for him. But he's got himself in a position where most nights he's been productive for us, and he's going to have a lot of opportunities in the coming weeks to show us, exactly who he is.
Robbie in the middle, and then we'll go to Benjamin next to him.
Coach, you look at the first half, and you have the slow start, and then you build a lead, and they kind of cut into that lead again. And we talked to Claudel about the halftime and kind of what y'all were talking about, and he mentioned it always seems to be about defense. This always seems to be your message. Did you feel like that kind of got y'all jump started in the second half, coming out and winning on that side of the floor to get y'all on that 14-16-0 run or whatever it was?
I don't know. Gosh, trust me, before the game it was about defense too. And we didn't play bad defense in the first half. We gave up 25. They hit that bank shot at the end of the shot clock. I think of the lead was 13.
Yeah, 13.
And if you miss that, we go run out, long miss. Who knows? I thought that was kind of a momentum changer a little bit because all of a sudden it's 10. I think they scored again. So we just, had kind of a bad break, in that certain possession. But we hadn't turned them over. That was the thing that we were a little disappointed with, is we hadn't got into the ball enough. Our help defense wasn't as strong. Our traps weren't as handsy, and that kind of opened the game up, I thought, as we got some turnovers to start the second half, and it started with just being more frenetic on the ball and guys being a little more aggressive, with the traps that we like to employ most of the time. So, it's one of those things where you just got to stick with it.
Benjamin, go ahead, and we'll go back to Robbie.
Has to be about the most productive 0-point game you can imagine for Cam Matthews. I know you mentioned a couple weeks ago that you wanted the team to play with his personality. It seemed like you guys were able to do that tonight. Is that what you're seeing?
Yeah, I don't ask the players this, but I know how the coaches feel, and it's just more comfortable when he's on the floor, and like you mentioned, not many guys can say they played pretty good and go 0 for 3 from the field and 0 for 4 from the free throw line. And I know he'll be disappointed with that and all that, because he's been shooting free throws much better. But he's our heartbeat, man. He's our guy that we lean on for his energy, for his toughness, for his ability and willingness to speak up. To get other guys on the same page. And I think the players would probably say the same, that they like when he's on the floor. It gives them a lot more confidence when he's out there.
Back to Rob.
For as fast as this team can play, and you got these new faces, they just don't turn the ball over. They had 5 today. They had 2 in the second half. From what you can tell, what's been the key in protecting the basketball the way that y'all have this year?
It's not coaching, I can tell you that, because we haven't changed that much. Working on valuing the ball and different things that we've always done to try to get them to be good decision makers and not panic in some tough situations. It's probably experience, some guys are getting used to the level that were here last year, and then the portal kids recruiting has something to do with it. But like you mentioned, 5 for the game. You said 2 in the second half, and I think the 2 were Cameron Matthews down the stretch where, it became kind of funny, but they were arguing on the bench about it, like, because I got on Mook, and then Mook got on Murph, and then Murph got back to Mook, and we had fun with it in the locker room after the game. But all I know is I'm glad when we do it. It's a luxury. Talk about it, but I don't know. I can't attribute to other than having good players that make the decision. On top of that, we had 24 assists and 35 turnovers or 35 baskets, which always makes the coach happy.
Go back to Sam, and then we'll go to Rick on the end.
As Central Michigan threw some different defensive looks at you guys, at the zone and the full court press that maybe don't always see regularly with some other opponents. Did you have to kind of change any of the offense at all for this particular game, or was it kind of just sticking to what you had?
No, it's a good question. We did. It was a short turnaround. We played Saturday, obviously, and you get together. You don't do a lot on Sunday other than walkthroughs and film, and getting organized and maybe adding some things because of your next opponent. And that's what we had to do. Is they were about 25% zone going into the game, and I told our guys that if the game goes the way we want it to, I think we'll see a way more diet of zone. I didn't think they would play us as much man as they had a lot of other teams. I didn't think they would start it, but they did. And so it was, in the end, it's good. We got great experience against a traditional 2-3, and then they ran a little bit of a matchup too. So we did add some things going into this game just because we hadn't really seen a lot of matchup. And to be honest with you, the way Meneeks plays the game before with the switching of all the ball screens, I remember telling the coaches during the game, like, yeah, I know they're in man, but it looks like zone to me when I'm watching the game unfold because of all the switching that they're doing when we set those ball screens. So I think even that game kind of helped us prepare for what we saw tonight.
Rick, go ahead.
Yeah, Christian, pick up the paper and you see 5 out of the top 7 teams in the country are SEC. 10 teams ranked worst record in the league, 7-3. Are you feel comfortable? You're ready for that? Is your team ready to go into that?
First, I love it. I love that the league is having the year that we're having. I root for those teams every single night, and knock on wood, so far so good, obviously. And who knows how it will end up, but it's coming down the stretch run of all of our non-league games, and you kind of settle in then with what it does for the league. And I'm excited about that, to be a part of it, to have our program be a part of it. Now, the most important part of your question, are we ready for that quality of team every single night? I don't know. I don't know. If you ask me by our recent play against Prairie View and against McNeese, it didn't look like that, that we were ready. But human nature kicks in, and I hate to even admit it, but it does sometimes, because when we played against Pittsburgh, we looked a lot different that night than we did, a couple games following. So, ready or not, we're going to get a taste of it Saturday. We're going to be on the road against a Memphis team who's having a wonderful year, that's got great numbers. It'll be a quad 1 opportunity all year long. And they're coming off a heck of a road win, in a tough place to play at Clemson. So that'll be a great lead-in, with still a couple weeks before we get into, about 2 weeks before we get into SEC play. But we're going to find out soon enough.
Other questions for Coach? We'll go back to the cameras, and Dave, we've got time for a couple more.
Coach, good to see you again. David Dudlestein with the CBS station here in Jackson. We covered Josh Hubbard when he was in high school, and last year being just a freshman, obviously an amazing season. Where have you seen him growing already this season, and where can he still look to improve even as a sophomore?
Yeah, he worked tirelessly on his body in the offseason. Dominic Walker and him spent a lot of time together, a strength coach, and I would tell people going into the fall, like, people would ask me that, and I would say he's bigger, faster, stronger. And he is. He's more explosive, and you can see it if you really have watched his game. He does things in the game you're like, wow. Even me, I'm like, man, that looks different, this year. And then certainly from a leadership perspective, he's just found his voice. He always has led by example, but now he's found his voice and willing to speak up. He's earned respect in the locker room, even as a sophomore. because of his approach, because of his work ethic, because of how he handles all the success that he's had. And then I would say the other area that, you know, we talk about a lot, he and I, is just the defensive end. You know, he wasn't much of a defender when he walked in the door. And last year, he you know, had some good games and some bad games, and we were around him pretty good. And now that he's got all that experience and understanding and strength, and he's in way better shape too. Like, he wins almost every sprint we have, and you can see it on the court. He rarely gets winded, rarely gets tired, and I think that's really helped him because he's playing, you know, some more minutes already in this part of the season.